and once again, Ann Patchett.
So amazing, and now I'm the opening act for Dawes. The first time Maeve and I ever parked on Van Hoobeek Street was the first time I'd come home from Choate for spring break. Spring was something of a misnomer in Elkins Park that year, since there was a foot of snow on the ground, an April's Fool Day joke to cap a bitter winter. True spring, I knew from my first half semester at boarding school, was for boys whose parents took them sailing in Bermuda. "What are you doing?" I asked her when she stopped across the street from the Dutch house. "I want to see something." Maeve leaned over and pushed in the cigarette lighter. "Nothing to see here," I said. "Move along." I was in a bad mood because of the weather and what I saw as the inequity between what I had and what I deserved. Still, I was glad to be back in Elkins Park, glad to be in my sister's car, the blue Oldsmobile wagon of our childhood. Because I was 15 and generally an idiot, I thought that the feeling of home I was experiencing had to do with the car and where it was parked, instead of attributing it wholly and gratefully to my sister. "Are you in a rush to get someplace?" She shook a cigarette out of the pack and then put her hand over the lighter. If you weren't right there to catch the lighter, it would eject too forcibly and burn a hole in the seat or the floor mat or your leg, depending on where it landed. "Do you drive over here when I'm at school?" Pop. She caught it and lit her cigarette. "I do not." "But here we are," I said. The snow came steady and soft as the last light of day was folded into the clouds. Maeve was an Icelandic truck driver at heart. No weather could stop her. But I had recently gotten off a train, and I was tired and cold. I thought it would be nice to make grilled cheese sandwiches and soak in the tub. Baths were the subject of endless ridicule at Choate. I never knew why. Only showers were thought to be manly. Maeve filled her lungs with smoke, exhaled, then turned off the car. "I thought about coming over here a couple of times, but I decided to wait for you." She smiled at me then, cranking down the window just far enough to let in a shelf of Arctic air. I had nagged at her to give up cigarettes before I left for school and then neglected to tell her that I had started. Smoking was what we did at Choate in lieu of taking baths. I craned my head to look up the drive. "Do you see them?" Maeve looked out the driver's side window. I kept thinking about that first time she came to the house 1,000,000 years ago. Do you even remember? Of course I remembered. Who could forget Andrea showing up? And she said that business about worrying that people were looking in our windows at night. No sooner were the words out of her mouth than the foyer was flooded in warm gold light from the chandelier. Then after a pause, the lights above the staircase went on. The illumination of the Dutch house was timed so exactly to her words, it nearly stopped my heart. Of course, Maeve had been coming to the house without me. She knew that Andrea turned on the lights the very minute the sun went down. Denying it was just a bit of theatrics on my sister's part. "Look at that," I whispered. There were no leaves on the linden trees, and the snow was falling, but not too heavily. Sure enough, you could see right into the house, not with any detail, of course, but memory filled in the picture. There was the round table beneath the chandelier, the grandfather clock it had been my job to wind, the 2 French chairs no one ever sat in, the giant mirror whose frame made me think of the twisted arms of a golden octopus. Andrea crossed through the foyer as if on cue. We were too far away to see her face, but I knew her from the way she walked. "She must have watched us," Maeve said, "before she ever even came that first time. Or maybe everybody watched us." I reached into her purse and took out the cigarettes. "That seems a little self-aggrandizing," Maeve said. "Everyone." They teach us that at Choate. She laughed, and I could tell she hadn't been expecting to laugh, and it pleased me to no end. 5 whole days with you at home," she said, blowing smoke out an open window. "The best 5 days of the year."